Hey everyone, thanks for coming to the video. Got a chance to have a virtual sit down with Nick Eubanks, a respected voice in the digital marketing and SEO community, founder of From the Future, which is a digital marketing SEO agency that he subsequently sold, co-founder of Traffic Think Tank, and vice president of owned media at SEMrush. If you're interested in digital marketing and SEO and generative engine optimization, answer engine optimization, if you're interested in potentially starting an agency or you already own one or hiring an agency, whatever it may be, this is one that you won't want to miss. I want to start off, Nick, by asking you, since you are a former agency owner yourself, what advice would you give agency owners that are thinking about or that are already running GEO, SEO, even PPC companies? What advice would you give them just as general advice?
Uh, Wait to hire. I think that was a mistake that I made, and I've seen a lot of other early agency owners make. Is most agencies are started organically, right? Usually, it's somebody is doing freelance or contract work, and they build up enough of a client base that they can replace their income from the job, or they're freelancing until they get to a point where, and it's usually around $40,000-$50,000 a month in revenue is sort of that sweet spot where I think it's like, man, like I want to grow more, but I can't do it myself. I need to hire people. And I think a lot of folks make the mistake of jumping right into making like W-2 hires, full-time hires before they really have enough client diversity, enough stability on the client front. And so I would say, try to build as your agency on top of contractors as much as you can until one or two things happens, until you get to a place where you absolutely need that reliability from like a true A player. It's in your best interest to lock up that person and get them on the team.
Yeah, so protect those margins, in other words, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, well, just protect the margins, but also like don't take on unnecessary financial risk.
Exactly. And so are there any particular industries or niches that you think, let's say, new agency owners, GEO, SEO agency owners, PPC agency owners should start off with?
I think local is a great place to start. It's still somewhat safe right now. I think from all the LLM disruption, we're not seeing AIOs present in as many of the local modified queries right now.
That's true.
I think what's going to be really interesting is, I have seen like the local results within the LLM, like LLMs themselves are kind of astounding. Like if you do a search for like do like a law firm query, right? Like a personal injury attorney and some city name. You do that in Google, and you're going to get 5 ads probably, and then a map, and then a map pack, and then people also ask, and then probably more sponsored ads. But if you do that same thing and say Perplexity is like giving you their recommendation almost. It's like, oh, here's who you should choose. So like Google is like, here's who shows up, here's the options, and you can go and decide from how well merchandised these profiles are, which ones have the highest star ratings, which ones have the most reviews, what year they're been around, what other like positive reviews show up on that SERP for that law firm or for that lawyer. And Perplexity is like, here, you should choose this person, this lawyer, because they have this experience and this experience, and this is what other people have said. And here's an excerpt from a testimonial from some other third-party site. Like they merchandise that experience almost like it's an e-commerce PDP. But if you think about the change in behavior, like it's decision support. Like Perplexity is like really, it's why the conversion rates I think are so much higher coming out of LLMs, because the LLMs is like, the user assumption for me as the searcher is like, oh, the LLM's gone and done all its homework, and now it's making its recommendation to me. So like, exactly. I don't need to go and just click through all these links and try to gather all that information myself. And people people hate making decisions. Most people are really bad at it. So anything you can do to shortcut that process, I think, is going to win.
Yeah, and people want to save their time. I've noticed that too. The conversions through these LLMs are generally higher because people are doing their research on the LLM. They're talking to it. They're saying who's the best. And then by the time they get to your website, generally they're more warmed up to actually make a
Yeah.
purchase or use your
Yeah. I
service.
mean, my team did a research study earlier this year. You know, we found that across all of the prompts in our study, the conversion rate was 4.4 times higher. And that's just like, that's a broad range. I've talked to some folks in SaaS that are seeing like 7-8x, like huge, gains in conversion rate from LLM
Yep.
traffic versus just organic search.
Yeah, it's super valuable. So let me ask you this, as a former agency owner yourself, what were your biggest obstacles? So this is a two-part question. Number one would be on the employee-facing side, so the internal side, and the second part would be on the client-facing side. What would you say are your two biggest obstacles that new agency owners or just agency owners in general should be aware of?
So the team side, was hiring for, or as an early founder, I tried to really hire for experience.
Okay.
And when I was hiring folks who were, sort of fresh out of college, it meant looking at like what they studied and what kind of projects they worked on. And I hired, I have one story in particular that really stands out, which was like, I hired this like kind of hotshot kid who had like a, perfect like student record, like great grades. He graduated with like an engineering degree with a focus on analytics. Just on paper, total win on paper, looked like a rock star. And he showed up and he just didn't have the work ethic. Like he was just not there to do the work. And like, it was one of those lessons I sort of had to learn the hard way where, he even dropped the ball on some client work and ended up souring that client relationship and losing that client. And what it was understanding that like, at least for in my experience as an agency owner, I would rather hire for personality. Like you don't need to have all the skills coming in if you have the right mindset. Like you'll if you're autodidactic and you're hungry and you've got some grit, like we'll figure it out. Like you'll learn. You'll learn what you need to learn pretty quickly too. Like that was my two best team members ever, where I hired one right out of college, and I hired one that actually ended up dropping out of college to work for me full time. Which I wouldn't generally be proud of, but he's a very successful guy. So I don't think he would say that he regrets it. But they both just had the right mentality, and it was easy to see that. Like they sort of went above and beyond right out of the gate. And those were, both those guys worked for me for 10 plus years, and they both work for me at SEMrush now. It's folks that I want on my team for as long as I can have them, just because it's that mindset thing. So, on the client side, one thing, I don't think this is true for all agencies, but one thing, like I've only ever had two like bad client experiences, two experiences where I'm like, man, I wish I never worked with those people.
Horrible.
And both times it was because they were like unsophisticated. Like they were folks that they didn't really understand search. They didn't understand the channel. Like they thought, you pay some money, you get some content and some links, you put it up on your website, and it just works. These are the type of people, like you can spot them from a mile. These are the type of people who, they'll email you, sign on a contract with them, and they'll email you a week later. And they're like, hey, how come we don't rank for this random obscure keyword that nobody searches for? And like, oh, I saw our rankings went down. We lost 1.5% in our share of voice over the weekend. Like, what happened?
They're frantic. Yeah.
Yes, but it's because they don't understand the channel. Like they're unsophisticated buyers, right? And so that was one thing that we started to screen for more and more. Like later in my agency career, was like, do these people we're working with, are they going to be a huge pain in the ass because they don't really understand what it is we do? They don't understand the value that we bring.
Yeah, and also a lot of times you'll find that those types of clients are the ones that pay the least.
Yes. No, man, I'm sure, anybody in the professional world, any entrepreneur's probably seen the meme that's like, $500 client. Like, when's it going to be done? When can we get on a phone call? We need to meet this week. $50,000 client. Checks in the mail.
That's
Like,
exactly
it's
how it
so true.
works.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, what would you say, speaking about clients from the client side, what should they know if they're working with an SEM agency, GEO? For those who don't know, GEO, generative engine optimization, AEO is answer engine optimization, PPC is pay per click. So for, the client, what should they know to increase their probabilities of success with these particular agencies?
So this is a tough question to answer actually because there's two sides and they're drastically different. On the one side, I'm a really big advocate for people that are trying to better their lives and build a business for themselves. They're like, I hate my job. I want to change careers. I want to get into digital marketing. I want to get into SEO. I think it's fascinating. It's a lot of problem solving and social engineering and platform and tool learning and stuff that a lot of people enjoy. And for those people, I like to encourage folks to be like, hey, go out and get some skills. And the way you're going to get those skills is like you're going to go do work for free. Go find people in your network and offer to do the work, offer to do work for free. Read everything you can, but like go get your hands dirty. But like you're not really going to be able to, you shouldn't be charging money until you're able to deliver value, and you're not going to deliver value until you have some experience. You learn what works and what doesn't. And so it usually means you're doing work if for free or at an extreme discount. Um, and on the flip side, though, if you're a client, this is where it gets hard. Is if you're a client, you need to look for people that have experience doing and like delivering results in ideally the same industry as you. At the very least, don't go hire somebody who's a programmatic SEO expert to do local SEO for your dry cleaning business. Like, there might be a silver bullet in there that they get lucky one time, but that's not really an expected repeatable result. So like, it's the same way, like you wouldn't hire an electrician to build you to carve you a desk out of wood. It's just like
Right.
hire folks that have, especially find that track record. It doesn't have to be a long track record, but like 2 or 3 true client successes that represent the work that you expect this person to do for you, I think is a huge way to avoid ugly relationship mistakes.
Okay. Now, there's been a lot of changes in digital marketing, especially on the organic side in the last 24 months. So, what would you say is for yourself, for you, the most surprising user behavior change or search change within the last 24 months?
I mean, so you were asking about user behavior. I mean, the obvious one, perhaps painfully obvious, is just the way that people are using LLMs. And uh, every week I hear about some new use case that I hadn't thought of before. Like the amount of people I've met that are like, oh yeah, like I don't go see a therapist anymore. I just talk to ChatGPT. And I'm like, that's mind-boggling to me.
That might
It's
be
scary.
problematic.
Yeah, I mean that's scary in and of itself, but it's also just crazy that like that
Right.
behavior has changed. Like, you know, again, I'm a little older than you are, Caleb, but like I come from a time, like my childhood, like in the mid '90s, the idea that anybody would put their credit card into a website was completely insane. Like my parents were like, I don't trust that website. I'm not going to buy like eBay was this foreign concept, and God forbid you put your credit card and buy something on the internet. Like there's still articles from the late '90s of people being like, oh, e-commerce is a fad. This will never last. Just total insanity looking back on it now, right? And if you would have told me 3 years ago, oh yeah, people are going to completely replace their therapists with an AI in a browser, or like they're just going to have an app on their phone, and that would be their therapist and life coach, I probably wouldn't have believed you. So that like behavioral shift, I think that's crazy, is how fast we, especially the younger generation, is trusting technology. Like we're not the screen first generation. That would be like the generation that came right after us. Born with screens, they were always there, right? Like I had a pager when I was 12 years old. Like there was the idea of having a touch screen from the time I'm 5 or 6 was never going to happen. But that inherent trust, I think, is crazy. And I imagine some bad things are going to happen ultimately. Like I think that we're gonna see some edge cases of some stuff that goes sideways because of a lot of this inherent trust in these systems. But that would be the
Yeah,
crazy behavior shift if I had to highlight one.
absolutely. So I know you've probably heard of the great decoupling,
Oh yeah,
which is basically the fact that Google Search Console impressions are staying the same or increasing,
growing in many
but
cases. Yeah.
traffic, yeah, but traffic or clicks is going down. So with that being said, and we've already, spoken about how for local SEO, you know, the standard SEO components are still important. What are your thoughts on what's actually working for compounding organic growth in 2025 and going into 2026?
I mean, the one thing that's interesting is it's I think clicks are down. I think that's pretty much irrefutable evidence at this point, but I don't know if it's like total clicks are down as much as it's attributable clicks, from organic
Okay.
search. Because I have seen quite a few instances where that traffic is showing up in other channels. It's showing up in direct, it's showing up in unknown, it's showing up in referral. Um, and if you think about the idea of like how if the traffic if the attributable traffic is going to those three other channels, we'll just call it direct, unknown, and referral, then it's, how do I double down on those channels to drive more visibility, drive more traffic from those channels? And it's going to be brand building exercises that are outside of Google, which is just a weird thing to think about as an SEO. It's the idea that I now need to think not just about my content strategy, because that's how I used to get traffic, right? It was having the right content strategy and building links and getting my page to show up on Google. But if there's no clicks to be had on that channel anymore, now it becomes a question of, well, what's my distribution strategy? How much do I have to invest in making sure that I'm visible and I'm part of the right conversations on Reddit, and I'm publishing on sites that are being cited often in these LLMs. Where are there newsletters that I can still get in front of? What YouTube channels do I need to show up on? Like it's what's old is new again, right? And it's now everything is important besides just your website. Um, it's crazy. I mean, we're shifting a ton of budget. Like we've completely changed up our strategy for the second half of the year, to invest in all these other channels, all these other services for visibility. We're investing a lot less in the old strategy. So it's less landing pages and blog posts, even though blog posts are a huge driver of LLM visibility still.
Right.
It's just not. It doesn't feel like the safe bet anymore.
Yeah, that top of funnel content is definitely um, kind of different in the way that it's performing now in the last few months or
Yeah.
year. So, as we've kind of touched on, AI, the importance of AI is definitely growing exponentially. I'm a firm believer that there are some things that AI should not be doing, and there are some things that AI should be doing. From your perspective, how should agency owners be using AI to improve the efficiency of their agencies and to improve results for clients?
Yeah. So I am a big fan of the human in the loop, and a lot of the stuff that we're using AI for is the stuff that it's good at. So AI is decent at pulling together bits of research, if there's structured research available. AI is great at disseminating structured data. Like I love being able to give it a spreadsheet or give it a PDF and ask specific questions that would save me hours of having to dig through sheets or read entire documents. Like that summarization consideration from AI, I think is really good. Um, we're using it for a lot of content workflows now. So, using like an MCP that can pull in search volume and intent, just as we're thinking through the beginnings of a strategy, from a content perspective, and then having it create the brief, and then having that brief distilled down to be channel specific, being able to hand those types of requirements off to writers, or in some instances, for certain content types, having AI do the first draft, and then just bringing a human in to be the editor,
Yep.
humanize the content, fact check the content. Um, Image generation, I think, is fantastic. I've got a buddy that's running a Gen AI video agency now. That's like some of the coolest stuff I've seen. Again, scary at the same time. I mean, I've seen some videos that you really can't tell.
Right.
My favorite story there is I showed my brother. So my brother is an Emmy award winning video producer. He's got a video production agency. They've won 3 Emmys. So like he knows his shit. And I showed him a video, and he was like, no, like see right there, that's a shot. You can see like right here, that angle, like that's a shot. He's like, there's AI in here, but like there's actual shots of humans. And I was like, no, man, it's 100% generated. Like he refused to believe it. Because that's how good it's getting in some sense. So like the creative pieces where I think AI is not great though is like the storytelling components. Like I've had AI write some scripts for me for YouTube channels. I think it's great with marketing copy. But it also comes down to inputs, right? Like if I can feed it a brand style guide and I can give it like I'll give you a little secret. I'm gonna reveal this at some point, but I don't know. But like for the past 2 months,
Exclusive here, folks. Exclusive here.
For the past 2 months,
Only here. Go ahead.
I trained like 10. What is it? It's August now, so like early June, or maybe it was late May. I trained the GPT to be me. So it was like, hey, here's my past 5 years of LinkedIn posts. Here's my last like 1,000 tweets on Twitter. Here is like samples of my writing. Here's blog posts that I've written. And then I gave it Matt Gray, if you know who he is. He's like a LinkedIn influencer. I gave him like here's Matt Gray's like here's how like the framework for writing a viral LinkedIn post, and here's how he approaches images and cadencing and scheduling. And then Craig Dewart from My Content Pal has like this whole like hook and rehook vault with like 1,000 great hooks and rehooks. I gave it that. So like gave it all these things to be like, all right, you should be able to not only write like me on LinkedIn, but you should be able to write in a way that like stands out, grabs attention, is contrarian, hopefully pisses some people off, because that's great for engagement farming. And for the past like 2 months, AI ChatGPT has just been writing and posting to my LinkedIn. Like I've
seen it.
I don't even moderate it.
I'm like Nick is not writing this, man.
I don't even moderate it anymore. Like it's just letting it go. But like my impression.
I thought it was Craig doing it.
Oh yeah, no, it's completely automated at this point.
Okay.
And it's just an experiment. I wanted to see, like I was like, I'm gonna let them do this for 3 months and see how it goes. But I've gained like 35% more followers. I'm averaging like almost 50,000 impressions a week. Like it's way better than anything I ever did. And I was never going to put the time in to do it right anyway. But it's funny when I hop in and I go and I look at like some of the post content, sometimes it writes stuff and I'm like, oh, I probably wouldn't have said it like that. But then I'm like, oh, I got 66 comments on that because like people got real upset about it. Like it's a bunch of SEOs being upset with a bunch of other SEOs. It's like, oh no, GEO is not real. It's just SEO. There's no differences. It's like, well, actually there was like a major consideration component. Like the biggest difference between them is volatility, right? Like with when you're talking about anything that's generated, the consistency is going to be almost impossible to nail down because of the individual context for that person, like the level of personalization. Like me and you could literally go put the exact same prompt to the exact same model right now and get very different results back for it. And so like that in and of itself is what makes it different, right? It's not the same list of links. And even on like high beta keywords on Google Organic, there's still like, there's still some element of like temporal permanence. Like even if you've got a keyword that changes a lot, it's probably still not changing daily, right? Like, even if you look at what used to be your most competitive SERPs, like payday SERPs, for example, you'd have stuff bounce around week to week, but there'd still be 4 or 5 days where the number 1, 2, and 3 results were the same. That is hypothetically never the case at all with LLMs. And so just that alone, that volatility factor, I think makes it drastically different. So people like, doing what works for old school SEO is what works for GEO. And it's like, yes and no. Yes, those same things matter. The depth and quality of your content, the trust and authority, the coverage of surface area, links still matter, arguably more. But then you've got this whole but there's this notion now of needing to perpetuate that content, all these other places that your audience is, so that you can, because you're going to form all these opinions, and the LLMs themselves are forming their own opinions of your brand and of your content from all these other sources that don't necessarily have the same level of impact as Google. And so that's my favorite hot button to push right now on LinkedIn, because people just go. There's like somebody got into a fight in my comments yesterday. It was awesome. I like it was over 100 comments, and just two guys going back and forth, and like other people jumping in to defend either on the other side. I'm just like sitting there with popcorn. It's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of internal debates going on in the SEO realm now. So, other than revenue and website traffic, which KPIs would you say that stakeholders and C-suites should
Great
be
question.
looking at most closely now and in 2026 in the near future? Should it be share of voice? Should it be rankings, impressions? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we're using share of voice internally. That's like one of the main things we report on. So we've got SEMrush share of voice for organic inside the SEO toolkit, and then we do track and report on share of voice in our we call it AIO, but our AIO toolkit, AI toolkit. So that's super. That's what leadership is paying a lot of attention to. Across the organic search team, we've shifted a lot of our conversations from traffic to impressions. Right, we're just trying to understand like what are impressions going up? What content is getting those impressions? Are they impressions on our YouTube channel, or if they are impressions that are being reported in GSC, what is the like the URL or the domains that are getting those impressions? And we're trying to look at that as a whole. The one thing that it's probably a little ironic, or maybe not ironic, expected to hear me say it, but like when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I'm an owned media guy, so everything looks like it should be owned media, or I'm biased about how effective it is. But for us, especially for SEMrush as a company, like if we hadn't deployed our own media strategy when we did, ahead of all this AIO nonsense, like I hate to think about what kind of position we'd be in, because the thing about AIOs, right, is like they hit some industries based on queries so much harder than others.
Yep.
And we are definitely that is like SaaS is very squarely in the crosshairs of AIOs.
Okay, now for right now in SEO, there are studies that show that ranking in the standard SERP, ranking higher in the standard SERP, does increase your probability of being retrieved and being mentioned, in these AI searches. So with that being said, we already talked about local SEO, how that's still important. With that being said, traditional SEO still does matter. However, moving forward, let's say in the next 5 years, maybe even 10, if we can kind of foresee as much as possible, what do you think will happen with traditional SEO? Will it completely become irrelevant? We know that Google's AI mode is rolling out, looking like it's going to be the default search experience probably within the next 12 months or so. So what do you think about traditional SEO? Is it going to die off? Is it going to just become less and less and less important incrementally until it dies off? Or what would you say?
I don't think SEOs, I think it's just changing like really dramatically, right? Like I think the way that we think about it needs to change. I don't think it's going to die. I don't think it's ever going to die really completely. I think people, we're human beings, are always going to be searching one way or another. I think how that behavior is going to change is going to be fascinating to watch. But I was talking to Eli Schwartz recently, and he said something that really stuck with me, which was like, what's happened and sort of where we're at now, in the SEO world, is that you used to be able to kind of phone it in. Like there was a lot of SEO that you could do that didn't have to be like great. Like the content could be okay. It didn't have to be fantastic. Links could be okay. They didn't have to be fantastic. Like you didn't have to think about how to build a brand strategy and permeate that brand strategy across all these other channels. And he's like, I think, more than anything, where we're at now is that's fundamentally changed. Like you can't really, do cheap shot SEO anymore. Like you have to have true strategy, like brand and content strategy at the core, and then think about distribution very strategically from there.
Okay. All right, Nick, it was a pleasure having you. I definitely appreciate it. Come back soon. I think those listening definitely learned something, and thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much, Caleb. It was a pleasure.
If you have a business that you want to grow through online marketing, feel free to reach out to me. In the description box, you'll see the contact info. You can also book a free audit so that we can look at your website and your business and how we can help you. We can also jump on a call to discuss the details. All right, thanks for watching.